Welcome to the primary market research and customer discovery session of this workshop. So this is the part where you're going to go out and validate your ideas. So what you're going to do is you're going to speak to potential customers, and you're going to do that through interviews. And there's some specific characteristics and elements you should focus on when conducting these interviews. And that's what we're going to focus on in this short session. So first of all, why do you need to do customer discovery? And it's very easy to explain, because if you even have the best technology out there, but it doesn't address a certain customer problem, you won't be able to sell it. So that's why you always need to identify the customer's pain point or requirement or need in order you structure and design your technology into a product which suits your potential customer market. This is extremely important. So customer discovery or primary market research really enables you to identify customer needs. And what you should do is really align your solution with the customer's pain point. Secondly, is you want to validate your ideas against real world feedback. So you want to get the feedback of your idea from the potential customer and from the interviews you're doing. So you don't want to build something nobody wants. And that's why you want to do primary market research. So when you conduct interviews, there are some things you should remember and you should implement. And the first thing is ask open-ended questions. This is really important. Don't just ask questions where the interviewee or the potential customer just can answer yes or no, but you want to rather understand why something is or how that can be. So those are the questions you should ask. So try to avoid simple answers, yes or no answers, and try to get the interview engaged in a discussion so you can learn more and you can understand the problems the customer or the interviewee faces in his or her daily operations. So there are some sample questions you can ask. For example, can you describe a recent challenge your company faced with AI integration to solve methane capturing, for example? That would be one example. And this is an open-ended questions, and you can listen then to the interviewee. And that's now the second point. You follow up with some more detailed questions. So you can, for example, ask, why is that like? How is that happening? How did that happen? Those are potential questions you always should ask in order to understand more and more about the particular problem the interviewee or the customer faces. And there are also some sample questions here which you can use as a reference, but always ask the questions based on your problem. So you want to guide them a little bit into the direction of what you're working on. So you don't want to focus on a completely different area, but then be open and let them talk. And we're coming now to the points where this is actually really important. So when you let them talk, they might even state some very interesting quotes. And these kind of quotes, they can be very useful for your internal team and for your product development and for your idea and technology in general. But they can be also very important when you do your fundraising deck and investors hear about that quote, which shows that is actually a real pain point customers have and you're able to solve it. So that's why quotes are important, so write them down. The fourth point is active listening, and this is extremely important. I briefly mentioned it before, but what you want to do here is you want to let the interviewee speak. This is crucial. So you don't want to guide them into a direction and say, like, what do you think about this? Or what do you, is that something you're interested in? Because that again goes into the yes or no question category. But what you want to do is try not to sell. Stay back, listen, and focus on the interviewer's or customer's experience. What you should do is also listen to like breaks or silences, because that gives you also some insights. And if there's an insight or some break in, for example, in a question you ask and the customer cannot answer, try to really focus on that point, because there might be something interesting. And finally, what you want to do is sometimes those interviews, they will ask you about your potential product because you have to give some context. And obviously, you're going to say you're going to be working on something. So try to be general and flexible because you don't want to guide the interview into a direction where he then or she says, okay, this person does this, because you want to be flexible. You might need to pivot a lot at the beginning. So that's why you want to have this flexibility and stay with the customer engaged on that side. So we mentioned that briefly as well. Avoid leading questions. Don't push them toward a specific answer or a desired outcome you have, because you want to still validate your hypothesis. So you really want to let them speak the way they want to speak. Don't guide them. And maybe they drive it to a completely different direction you didn't have in mind. But this is something really important for you, because this will save you a lot of time and resources in the long run, because you will eventually avoid building something they or anybody wants. So this is very important. So there are some other examples. Avoid questions like, wouldn't you prefer an energy saving solution? And you should reformulate that into, how do you prioritize energy savings in your operations? That could be something, how you should structure this kind of question, because again, it's not a yes or no question, and it gives like room for a long answer where you can really understand their particular issues or the pain points or requirements. And then at the end, this is the last step here. After you've done your primary market research, you've spoken to a lot of potential interviews and customers, you want to do a summary and an organization of your findings and try to get some analysis what the interview or what the customer potentially wants, and if your technology really meets their pain points. So for AI startups, the customer discovery process or the primary market research process is a little bit different than for normal startups. There are some advantages, but also some obstacles. So let's focus on the obstacles first. And there's obviously, and we discussed that before, limited understanding of AI. So maybe the potential customer cannot express their pain points or their requirements because he or she don't have the background on how AI could really help them. Keep that in mind and price that in when you do the questions. The second one is the complex decision-making units in companies. So we discussed this, they're end users, they're economic buyers, they're influencers. And what you need to do is really identify with whom you're speaking, what is the role of this person, and does this person really give you insights you need in order to drive your product forward and to understand what the pain points are. So be aware of that situation. On the opportunities, obviously, there are some hidden opportunities which you as an AI startup and very likely as an AI expert are well aware of. And you could even use that as a small chance to a certain degree to educate the potential customer on potential opportunities AI can bring. Don't try to sell again, but just say, look, there is a chance that AI can do this and can do this by adjusting this and this process in your organization, by implementing or collecting these kinds of data and then using that kind of AI algorithm. This is something where you can also add some additional value to the potential interviewee and potential customer in the future. Finally, the problem solving part is really important. So what you want to make sure of is that you as an AI startup, you have really high margins, you have low costs, especially in comparison to hardware startups. So make use of that. And this flexibility allows you to even early engage with potential customers and co-develop, co-create your product, your service based on their respective pain points and their requirements. I hope this helps you, and we're going to see each other in the next workshop session.